to have you on the show, Linus. Let's talk about what's driving market confidence right now. Certainly, investors seem to be happy with what's going on in the market. We're talking earlier with our analysts during the course of the day about the fact that we're seeing recovery levels right now. I mean, what's your take on this? And certainly, I'm curious to know if there are any macroeconomic factors that may affect this upward trend we've been seeing.
Yeah, thank you, Uche. If you can see that even from last week and that the markets have been performing wonderfully well, and most of us were not surprised that at the end of today's trading, the market continued in the upward direction by recording 0.17% increase. And looking at the whole market generally, what we have noticed in the market that gradually the investor confidence is creeping back into the market after what happened in the past that nearly brought the market down. And also, if you look at generally the corporate performance result of mostly the banks and the brewing industry has always been helping to drive the market in the upward direction. But of course, if you look at the economy generally, we have experienced some level of macro level stability in the country, and this has also helped to propel the stock market forward as CBN continue to battle inflation and also maintain stability in the FS market. So there's a lot of confidence coming out from the economy generally that is going to help propel and keep the market in the upward direction. And we also believe that with the improving Q2 result and the expected Q3 corporate performance that will come out by the end of this quarter, the positive sentiment that's currently pervading the market will continue to keep the market in the upward direction. And also the current reforms and the effort by SEC and the Nigerian Stock Exchange to deepen the capital market is also having positive impacts in the market generally. So we expect to see this trend to continue. But looking at the activities of the bargain hunters that have actually kept the markets in the upward direction, we expect that sooner or later the profit takers will come into the market and begin to take profit. So we might likely see a situation that by the end of Q3, the market might actually dip slightly due to the activities of profit takers in the markets.
Well, Femi, let's focus on the banking sector, of course. That sector has been driving gains on the market, performing quite well. But, I mean, there was some concern over the increased CRR we saw coming out of the last MPC meeting. Of course, some of the directors from the CBN and how it would affect banking business over here in Nigeria. Now, what's your take on this concerns? Do you think it was an overreaction? Because, I mean, we're seeing the banking sector continuing to be stable.
Yeah, of course, if you look at the outcome of the last MPC meeting, where the MPR was held at 12%, even though CRI was, jacked up to 12% from 8%. Largely, we expect that for the banking sector, we expect CBN to retain MPR rather, at 12% at the next MPC meeting, which is coming up in later September. This is largely due to the fact that, the CBN has successfully used the MPR, the tight monetary policy, to control inflation. And because CBN is also under pressure to, maintain a good external reserves, for the country, to enable them maintain, stability in the currency market. So for the banks, we do not expect any surprises, coming out from the MPC meeting, particularly for the fact that even inflation is still in the double-digit range, and CBN cannot afford to be complacent at this point in time by losing its grip on the monetary policy. So we will expect that the CBN will continue to maintain tight monetary policy in order to keep inflation under check and also boost the external reserve, which is going to give CBN a lot of confidence and power to maintain stability in the currency market. So for the banks themselves, we do not expect more surprises, even though CBN jacked up the CIR to 12% from initial 8%, which constrained liquidity for the banks. But banks are also looking at the opportunity of playing in other segments of the market by playing aggressively in the fixed income market because of the high returns that we have seen in the fixed income market. So we are definitely going to go for more low-cost deposit funds to enable banks to take advantage of the fixed income market.
Well, Linus, there's one thing I want to highlight. I mean, recently we had the CBN coming out saying that it's going to be introducing a new currency, a new 5,000 naira note. Now, there's been a lot of criticism for this move. But, of course, we haven't discussed how this may affect banking business going forward. I mean, what's your take on how this will affect the business?
Yeah, since the information about the 5,000 naira note hit the business domain. There have been a lot of outcry, both by the initiated and uninitiated analysts in the market. But clearly for the banks, we expect that if CBN is able to push through this policy, it's going to impact positively for the banks, especially in the area of managing their cash. Right now, banks spend so much money in managing their cash, but with the introduction of the 5,000 naira denomination, it's going to help banks in the area of managing their cash. It's also going to help even individuals in terms of managing their cash, in terms of what they're going to carry. It will not actually have any impact in the area of the current cashless policy that CBN have been trying to drive. So for the bank, I think the 5,000 naira that CBN is planning to introduce into the market is a good development, which will augur well for the banking industry generally. It's going to also help banks generally to bring down their cost profile, because banks spend so much money in trying to manage cash, and even in terms of, also if you look at in terms of the insurance that banks need to put in place to manage their cash level. So overall, it's going to help banks to a great extent.
Well, Linus, one thing that I want to discuss is the coming MPC meeting. It's coming up in September, actually. And of course, in the last MPC meeting, there were several things that sort of shocked bankers, such as the increase of the CRR. Now, with this upcoming MPC meeting, is there any worry over some of the decisions that may come out from that meeting? And of course, the impact it may have on banking in Nigeria? Because it seems the CBN governor really targeted the bankers this time around in its efforts to mop up excess liquidity.
Yeah, the next MPC meeting is going to come up sometime in late September. But generally, for the banks, I do not think we expect any pleasant surprises for the outcome of that meeting. Even though, if you look at the inflation figure that hit the market in July, which was pleasantly surprising, because most analysts have expected that inflation should have gone up, but rather it came in at 12.8% from 12.9% as it was in June. So for the banks, we do not expect any pleasant surprise. We expect CBN to maintain MPR at the current 12%, because CBN has a lot to do in trying to protect the external reserve, which is hitting almost 40 billion at the moment. And that one will also give CBN ability to, protect the national currency. So for the banks, they should not really expect further tightening of the monetary policy. Rather, we expect CBN to keep it flat at 12% currently. And also, we do not think that CBN is going to adjust the CRR again, which they've already done in the last MPC. So I think what the bank should continue to do is to see how they can continue to explore the market based on the current 12% MPR and the current CRR, which has moved to 12%, and see how they can, play actively and continue to maximize the business opportunity that's available in the market. So overall, the next MPC meeting will not come out with any pleasant surprises for the banking industry generally.
Well, Linus, thank you so much. I mean, certainly it seems your outlook for the sector remains quite positive. Thank you so much. That was Linus Iwuajoku. He's the head of the Research and Market Intelligence Unit at Diamond Bank.